for a day.
Okay.
All right.
So Paul's speech is Toastmaster for a day. Let me tell you a little bit about Paul. Paul's been with us for 8 months now? 7 months? That's close, yeah. And in these 7 months, he's done quite a few speeches. It's very easy to see how much he's grown as a speaker because he's always put himself out there and volunteered to do different roles during our meetings and also to volunteer his speeches. So he's doing speech number 9 now. So he's just got one more left to get into his competent communicators. That's great.
Yeah.
Come on over, Paul.
We are going to go back in time to my first Toastmasters meeting 8 months ago, and that is where we're going to start. I came in and I sat down, I think, right where Laura was sitting, and I had never been, I had no idea what Toastmasters was, but I was ready to get into it. My philosophy with a lot of things in life is that you really just have to jump right into it and see how it goes. I enjoyed the meeting, and at the end, the president, Ms. Laura Frobos, asked for a volunteer to be Toastmaster the following week. Of course, my philosophy being, jump right in. I volunteered. I had never filled any roles in a Toastmasters meeting, but I said, why not? Let's do Toastmaster. So a week went by, and I found myself the following Tuesday a little bit nervous. I had a lot of stuff to get done. Apparently you have to print out agendas when you're the Toastmaster, and I don't have a printer. So I was rushing around. I also had my rent due the next day. So I got my rent money from my roommate, about $600 or so, in a little envelope from the bank. So she gave me the rent, and I was going to run out. I was going to go to the bank, put the money in, go to Staples, print all my agendas for Toastmasters, and then run to the meeting. Of course, this was at the last minute. I go to Staples to get my copies done, and I realize I don't have enough time to deposit the money. So I get my copies, I get my envelope with all the copies, and I have my envelope with the cash for the rent, and I'm like, okay, I'll just do this tomorrow morning, first thing. And I put them all together, and I'm ready to go. So, of course, I'm nervous. I rush to Toastmasters. I get here. I'm pretty late. I'm only here a couple minutes before the meeting begins. No one has agendas. So I'm rushing around. I'm passing out agendas. I put down my envelope where I'm going to sit. And the meeting goes swimmingly. It goes quite well, especially for my first time. I made a few errors here and there. The meeting finishes up. Everything goes well. And I go on home. And I realize, the next morning, as I'm going to the bank, I realize that envelope of cash, that I had left it with the empty envelopes of my copies, and I had thrown it away in the trash can, right back there. So what does one do in this situation? It wasn't a check, it couldn't be canceled. So I do what I think any normal person would do, and I came to the building at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I, very stealthily, or at least as stealthily as you can be in the middle of the afternoon, walked around the building looking for the dumpster. You may not know this, but the dumpster happens to be right over on the side of the building, right next to the street. Fortunately, it has a fence, a wooden fence around it, about this high. I kind of peeked out, I kind of looked, people were coming in and coming out of the building on their lunch breaks, and so I waited until it looked like no one was looking, and I jumped over the fence. And I looked into the dumpster, and it was probably about half full, and it's a pretty big dumpster. So I did what I think any normal person would do, and I jumped in. Now, what does one find in a dumpster for an office building like this? It's a lot of old Panera Bread boxes. It's a lot of Dunkin' Donuts coffee cups that were not completely drank. And so I'm going through, I'm in the dumpster, I've got to find, this is a fair bit of money, I got to find it. So I'm going through, I'm throwing bags to the side, I'm looking through just cups, coffee is flowing on the bottom of the dumpster. The smell is actually not that bad, it mostly just smells like a nice cup of coffee. And I see an agenda in this bag I tear open. I see an agenda, Toastmasters at the top. I've got the right bag. This is the bag that was thrown out. And I go through it, and I find my envelope that I had thrown away for my copies. And I look in it, and there's no bank envelope and no money. I guess the cleaning staff must have seen it. There was no name on it. Who's to know whose it was? Maybe they turned it in, maybe they didn't. Who knows? So I go home, and I have to go to my roommate. And I have to say to her, look, this is what happened to the money. I don't know how we're going to pay the rent. And I'm sitting in my room, and I look and I see out of the corner of my eye the pair of pants I had been wearing before going to the meeting. And I see peeking out of them a little white envelope. And in actuality, I had changed out of my pants and hadn't even brought the envelope of cash to the meeting. So the title, or the purpose of this speech, number 9, since it is somewhat off the cuff, is Inspire Your Audience. Persuade with power. So if there's any lesson to be learned from this, it's check your pockets, and then check the other pockets, and hopefully you won't have to do any dumpster diving. Mr. Toastmasters.